This is going to get real heavy.
When you hear about all the stuff we were going through secretly, we didn't tell each other. And
Oh. That's not the direction I was going to take the interview, but we can take it that way.
Right on the brink of success, and then...
There's no other band more legendary or more inextricably linked to Lucy's than the Fun Girls from Mount Pilot. The Nashville Underground Music Archives describes the Fun Girls as a punk band from the 90s that often incorporated legendary stage antics and costumes. Jim Ridley, writing for the Nashville Scene, described them as a group clad in skirts and hideous makeup, and the Tennessean called them satirical hard rock crossdressers. Yeah, none of these descriptions do them justice. To really understand how incredible they were, you have to talk to the people who were at their shows, because they say things like mind-blowing and transformative and the shit and the Fun Girls changed my life. Daisy Dead of the Dead said their shows were some of the best live shows she's ever seen. I asked the Fun Girls, Chris Fox, Troy Pigue, Charles "Cat" Tidball, and Donnie Kendall, to join me in the studio one afternoon to get their story, and they really delivered. We cover the band names that might have been, what happens when you ask a highly skilled drummer to join a band with the worst guitar player he'll ever play with, shopping for women's dresses at Goodwill, their award-winning box set, why they're hated in a couple of places in the Southeast, and of course, their onstage antics, including the infamous 328 Performance Hall show, which featured, among other things, silly string, confetti, flying toast, a fake security guy who pretended to shut down the show, 2 French maids, and a couple of dancing, donut-eating stripper cops who ended up rolling around on stage in their underwear. I don't want to give too much away, and anyway, it's so much better coming from them, so without further delay, here are Donnie, Troy, Chris, and Kat, the Fun Girls from Mount Pilot.
Don't pretend, be my friend, that's what you put me through, and no loss for me, it wasn't a big deal to you, not the victim, you'll see how this really affects me, I just attempt to screw up, I can't help but be angry, and I'm gonna hold a grudge!
Are we on?
We are. Thank you all so much for doing this. This is so fun. If you could go ahead and just introduce yourselves and then say what you did in Fun Girls from Mount Pilot, how you were a part of it. What instrument did you play? Just something. Go ahead.
I am Kat. I'm the one that didn't play an instrument, and I'm actually not here. Troy is imitating my voice.
That's not true. You played the saxophone.
Oh, yeah. On three songs, yeah.
And occasionally
Maybe 4.
Almost play the kazoo or the harmonica.
Yeah. Well, we
It would
had...
come out and then it would go back
I'd
up.
take the mouthpiece off my saxophone, and I would do some whistling
Kat
thing
was
there.
actually the most diverse musical instrument player in the band.
I guess so. I was the only one that played more than one instrument.
Donnie, I played guitar and did a little singing, if you want to call it that.
I'm Troy. I played bass and exposed myself more than the others.
That's for sure.
That's very true. I don't know. We haven't got to Huntsville yet.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
This is Chris. I played drums.
So let's start with the origin story for Fun Girls. How did Fun Girls get together? How did it start?
I'll take it and say that Fun Girls was, in my opinion, was birthed at Lucy's record shop because Kat and Troy and myself were spending a decent amount of time down there, and we talked about starting a band for 6 to 8 months before we actually did it. And most of those discussions took place at Lucy's record shop.
Yeah, I remember y'all were kind of had it going on before you came and asked me.
How'd they find
We
you?
didn't have much going on.
Yeah,
I think Donnie wrote a couple songs, and I had some lyrics, and we did it in sitting in his spare, what was it, your office or something?
My
like
garage.
Yeah, but we didn't actually plug in or anything.
House of Pain was kind of going on already, wasn't it? The zine.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we were hanging out a lot because Donnie, Kat, and I were doing House of Pain. And then the shows, Donnie was booking all these shows, which we'd mostly be at. And I remember as the conversation kind of starting because we kind of like hardcore, metal, noise rock, stuff like that. And a lot of the bands were really serious. And I remember the talk being, let's do something that's fun.
Not
Maybe,
serious.
yeah, not so serious.
Yeah.
You know, everyone, we like this kind of music, but there's a couple bands here and there, but we were like, let's do something that's kind of fun. So he wrote some songs. I hadn't played before, so I had a bass. I took a few lessons. I walked out of that. Guy coming in a room, telling me to sit there for 20 minutes and go, dude, I want to learn a fucking song. Teach me a song. So he said, you know, you want to give it a try. So he and I sat down. He wrote some songs and learned a cover song, which I think the first one was Bodies. And so he sat down. I think first was like, let's see if I can do it. So
And
we
he
sat
did
down.
just fine.
Put those fat fingers to work, dude.
It was also my first time playing guitar in a band. So up to that point, I had been a bass player. So Troy and I were on pretty even ground.
So why did it take 6 to 8 months?
I was hesitant to do it just because I had come off being in Cousin It, and it was not very successful. We spent a whole lot of time practicing and trying, couldn't find a guitar player, and it was just kind of a bad experience. So I was reluctant to jump back in, which is probably why it took so long to get it going.
I don't remember even taking 6 to 8 months. Maybe it did, but it seems like I remember coming back from grad school and talking to Donnie, and he was like, I got this idea for a band. And I said, and I was kind of like what Troy was saying. I was like going, well, I'm kind of burned on hardcore, but, you know, while I was at Auburn, I discovered, and I hate to use this term now because it's now a poison term, but it was basically pop punk. But it was, at the time, it was bands like the Mr. T Experience and Screeching Weasel and the Vindictives. It wasn't like what it's become. And I just thought I'd like to do something a little more closer to older punk rock or fun like that.
The idea was, we need to start a band, but who's going to do it?
Well, Frank was.
Go ahead, start the band, Cat. Start the band.
Well, it was actually
Troy, I think
Frank was-
anybody.
I think it was Chris that there's the lack of the drummer, because you had talked already when you talked to me about I'm teaching Troy to play bass. That's maybe another reason it took so long. Because
It
you
is.
say you
It
hadn't,
was.
yeah, you
Yeah.
hadn't played yet.
He was one. He had to write some songs,
Yeah.
learn a cover, and then the thing is, I would go over to his night. I mean, his house on I don't know Thursday nights, and we would sit down and.
And
We had told you let's get some songs
Yeah.
down. We had Chris in mind for drum,
And I know,
but we were kind of concerned because he was coming with Caustic Solutions. You know,
Yeah, I remember the first conversation. with
will he
Donnie.
want to do it? You know, will he want to go poop pat poop pat poop pat?
that's one of my bigger regrets is to this day to call Chris and say, Chris, we'd like for you to play drums for us. However, you can't play drums. You've just got to keep a beat. We can't have all this, you just going crazy all over the place. As it turns out,
He still did.
probably the best thing about Fun Girls from Out Pilot was Chris's drumming. And he's obviously the most talented person in the band.
Well,
Yeah,
musically maybe.
By far.
He played kazoo pretty good.
but he could tell him to play something and
Yeah,
say,
I'm-
"Can you do?"
I'm
and he
glad
would
it
come up
was
with
like
something.
that because, yeah, I mean, at that point in my drumming, I was sort of all over the place playing.
Yeah, you were
playing,
undisciplined.
Yeah, playing Fun Girls definitely made me take a step back and just kind of worry about punk beats more.
Yeah.
You
And,
said that you
worked out.
were going to say something about you remember the first conversation.
Well, I just remember. I can't remember how it happened. If he called me or if Donnie and I saw each other, but I remember that it was basically he was worried about whether I could chill out and stop playing so many drum solos. And I said, I think so. But, I'm not sure. And, for probably a week after that, I remember going, thinking to myself, man, is this going to suck?
and you were right.
Turned out,
But we fooled people for 3 years or more
it
anyway.
sucked in a good way. It was, I'm glad.
I also
glad we
remember
did it.
you one of the first road trips. It was like, Chris, you gotta get a double bass pedal and two bass drums because it's taking up too much space.
You gotta tone this stuff down. Now he came over to my house and we set up in the garage and it was just me and him and we played. At that time, I think we had 5 or 6 songs and we just went through those songs and at the end of it, it was like, okay, this is done. This is easy. We have a drummer.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
I don't either, but probably because I wasn't there.
Yeah, I remember you saying, "Well, yeah, we do have a bass player. It's Troy. He's never played before." And I was like, "Okay, so
Old
we're
school
just
punk
going to be
rock.
patient here."
Yeah.
You know, everybody, no one
Was
has to
it-
play an instrument. Just learn it as you go.
How would
Was
you
it-
like an opportunity to play with the worst guitar player you've ever played with?
But it's still intimidating because I, hung out with all you guys and seen y'all play, which kind of what made me want to play. Is here all these friends I had were just you could just get up there and do it, So I bought a bass. So like I said, took a couple lessons, wasn't figuring a lot out on my own. I was like, well, someone just show me a song. I can fucking learn a song. Show it to me, and then we would practice, and I would literally go home and practice all week. Every night I would go home and just do it. I was like, I'm not gonna fail at this. I want to do this. So
Hell yeah.
It sounds not atypical for starting a band, really, a pop punk kind of band, but then you kind of went off the rails at some point.
yeah,
What do you mean?
Or on the rails, maybe. I mean,
What happened?
Yeah.
well, because it became more than just about the songs and playing.
Oh, it's because we
right?
couldn't play. we had to have a gimmick.
The gimmick. Let's talk about the gimmick. Whose idea was the gimmick?
It wasn't
was-
mine because I found out about it the night of the first show.
And I know it wasn't.
I believe.
I know it wasn't Troy's from the earliest photos you can see because Troy looks miserable in a dress.
My
I think I
recollection is it came from deciding on the name.
Yeah,
and
it was.
we sat in the
Yeah,
practice
yeah.
room over on Bell Road, and we all had names. And we were down to, after Roseanne, which was my name, which is horrible. Thank God we didn't do that. Space Invaders or Space something, I think that
don't
you
remember.
had come up with.
It was something from a video game about some space something. I remember that too, but I don't remember
Yeah,
what
it
it was.
Really?
We
dude.
Yeah,
decided
you
when
come
we
up
had
with
our
something.
first show
Yeah.
that
I do not
everybody
remember
go
that.
home and come up with a
names.
list of names.
What about,
and we'd bring them in and shoot them down?
What about Barefoot and Pregnant?
That
was
Pregnant.
that was
Yeah,
pretty
another
high
one.
up there.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Kat had Fun Girls from Mount Pilot, and I
Yeah.
was
Cat had
Yeah.
several that was.
Yeah, I had
he and
like-
I both were fans of Andy Griffith's show, so he had several. I remember one being one bullet in the pocket because Barney always had to keep his bullet in his pocket because if he hadn't his gun, he'd always miss fire. So
I'll say add to that story too about the gimmicks is that kind of also, at least what in my memory, came from like I mentioned being in Auburn and learning about like other types of punk rock music. But the band Man or Astor Man formed in Auburn, so I was watching them for a year and a half, and they did like this great visual stage shows. And that also is like something when we talked about doing a fun band. I said, I want to do something visual too. I don't want to just stand up there because once again, all these bands were just standing up there staring at their feet with their ball caps on backwards, and it was like kind of boring to watch, even if you like the music. And so I had mentioned that at some point about that, and actually, I think every band any performance I've done since has been has had a visual component to it.
Well, I was reluctant to have Fun Girls from Mount Pilot as a band name because my feeling was everybody was going to expect some women up there, and we were the opposite of that. And so it was like, well, if we're going to do that, then we're going to have to put on a show. So we might as well do something. And at the time, I don't think we had a clear defined way that we were going to do that. We just said, we'll do stuff. And the first
I
show
think
that we
someone
did
said,
was pretty,
wouldn't it
pretty
be
bad.
funny if the first show we dressed like women at a practice and we all
But of
kind
course
of
you
went.
didn't.
Yeah,
Except
I
you
think I
didn't tell.
remember that.
You didn't
Yeah.
tell Chris though.
Yeah. Well, he didn't pay
I
attention.
probably just
He was just,
I
he was
just
always
went over
back
my
there.
head.
You're like, is he back there? Is he paying? What's
Three
he
years
doing?
three
I don't
years
know what
after we
he's doing
started,
back
Chris
there.
was still surprised that we were doing it.
We also tried to our first few shows. We tried to like keep the ruse going and see how long we could fool people that they can think that the band that's showing up was going to be actual women. We were just the techs and roadies setting stuff up, and that didn't last long, obviously for various and obvious reasons.
Because we had like 15 people
Yeah.
that came to see us play, and it was the same people. So
So the first show was that you just thought dressing as women was just going to be for the first show.
that's what I remember. That
But
we
I-
were looking for something.
I knew we were
like
gonna have
Cat. We
gimmicks,
wanted
yeah.
to do
Yeah.
something because again, we wanted to be a fun band. Let's do something. And here's a show was coming up. We were playing with Uncle Daddy at a place in Madison called Sleazy Street. It was just this little hole in the wall bar.
Place
And
didn't last long.
so yeah, I think we played there twice.
We did. Our
Yeah,
first
it
two
was
shows
like-
were
yeah,
there, and
yeah.
I don't think they lasted much beyond that.
Yeah.
My outfit that night was a shower cap, some stuff on my face to look like it was like a face cream and a robe and slippers. And at one point, I jumped, and the slippers were slippery and landed straight on my back in the middle of a song.
Oh.
It was embarrassing.
I think I might have looked unhappy because I think all I remember wearing was just like this little.
Kimono. It was a kimono.
Yeah, like a little kimono, and then I think I had a headband
Yeah.
with a flower on it. And I was like, that's kind of, I can do better than this. So what did you come up with, Chris, since you were a day's notice?
Yeah, I
Since
think
somebody wasn't paying attention.
Whatever
in
we gave him
practice.
is what he wore.
exactly. I dipped into Donnie's bag of tricks and probably came up with a wig and a dress. I'm pretty sure that's.
When did you figure out, like, this is going to be it from now on? We're just going to always do this.
I think it just, I don't know. It just
It
kind of
just-
kept, like I
yeah.
said, we wanted to have a visual show, and that
Yeah.
was like what we started doing.
I'm not really sure. It just sort of evolved, and we all got women's clothes and carried them around with us.
Yeah, maybe it was trying to outdo each other because a lot of times it'd be a surprise to each of us. You know when we were getting ready. It's the first time you were seeing what he was wearing, what she was wearing.
I always felt like Troy and I had an unofficial competition to see
yeah.
who came up with the craziest outfits.
Well, I was thinking the other day about actually going out to buy the outfits, and there used to be a Goodwill right down here on 8th Avenue across from the Kroger. And I remember going in there, and I need a couple outfits. I worked around the corner, so I go in there, and I'm not thinking anything about it. And I walk up to the counter with these two outfits, and I tell the lady, "You think these would fit me?" Now they're a large. I'm tall, but I'm not really big. And her eyes, went bugged out, and then her neck kind of went back. Her chin sunk in, and I was like, "Oh!" And then not thinking again. Oh, I play in a band. We dress like women. The lip goes up like she smells something bad.
This was
So I'm like, never mind, I'll go try them on.
This is like in the early to mid '90s, and nowadays that wouldn't be a shock. But
No, not at all.
As I'm slipping into the dressing
ladies' room.
Yeah, I turn around and look at her, and she's still going, just looking at me. And I was like, okay. So I made the purchase, and as I'm leaving, as I'm going out the doors, it just about shuts. I turn and look, and she turns and looked at the same time, and I kind of winked and nodded.
So on the level of outdoing each other, and say take everybody to a level of 10, where they would fall on the scale. Chris was always in the lower 2s and 3s. I was always a solid 5 or 6, and then these two guys were competing to be
Yeah.
like 24 or 25.
Yeah, definitely.
And it got to be so bad that I spent most of my time, because we would have to go set up our equipment, and then we would have to go run to the bathroom and then change clothes. And I was always concerned about the amount of time it took for that to occur. And so I was all in the bathroom. It would take me 5 minutes flat. And then I was always going, let's go, come on, guys. And they're damn putting on lipstick and doing shit.
full body paint.
Glitter.
It's like, come on, guys, we gotta go.
I remember at one point, Donnie just as a regular habit asked me before every show, "How long's your outfit going to take?" And then he would look at his watch, and depending on what I told him, he would time it and say, "Cat, start getting ready."
Go. Yeah. We'd be
Donnie's-
still setting up. I'd be like, go.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun. We'd actually sometimes we'd be the pre-show because where we'd change, there would be people around, so people would just be standing there going,
Yeah. Sometimes we didn't have a private change in here.
"Yes, here we go."
And then once we entertained people at an after show, because for some reason we had no place to clean up after a show, and we went to a Waffle House to get cleaned up, and Troy was like either a island native or a Smurfette that night, and I forget what I was, but we were in the bathroom watching like body paint office and stuff.
Chatting like a couple schoolboys.
Yeah, we're at the sink of the Waffle House. He's scrubbing like blue paint off his arms, and I forget what I'm.
I think you were a fairy. You had
Yeah.
the gold paint with the
Yeah,
glitter
or something. Yeah, and this dude comes in, just like walks in and like starts staring, doesn't say a word. He just like kind of looks, and he just walks over to, of all things, he walks over to the towel dispenser, does a couple clicks on the towel dispenser, and then I don't even think he pulled out a paper towel. He just goes, "I'm gonna get the fuck up on out of here."
Of course, we stopped talking and just stared at him when he came in. It was just like a silence, like, what?
Okay, so Troy, what was your favorite outfit?
I like Smurfette, Cannibal Woman. I had a lot. I changed up
What
a
about
lot.
the one where you had the baby?
Oh yeah, I forgot
What?
about that.
You had a baby?
I had
We did. Lucy's. You got to
I
remember
delivered.
that.
I did that twice. I think I did it once.
Yeah, we did a
once
few
in
shows.
Chattanooga.
Yeah, we did. It was always different towns.
But it was
yeah,
like-
I was a nurse, and he was a pregnant woman. He delivered a baby on stage.
Yeah, we did lose. I never saw that child again. I don't know what it's doing these days, but I hope
Except
it's
you
doing
had-
well. That's another thing too. When we come with these costumes, at least for me, I would have an idea for a costume, but I wouldn't come in and practice having a belly.
Thank God.
So then we get up on stage and I go, oh, fuck, I got to play my bass out to my side. And I remember, at least the first time I did it, I said, we had it like on when it was going to fall in the show. And I was like, we're moving this up to song 3. I can't fucking do this because I'm playing to the side like that.
I never thought
He
of
was
that.
dressed like a nurse. He was a nurse. That might have been when you did Nurse Bacon,
That
where you had all the
was.
bacon
That was
strips
one
hanging
of-
off, which
Yeah, that
we
was one of
never
the
really
early ones.
understood what that was, but
A mistake.
it was.
I get
More
more
than actual
yeah,
bacon strips.
I get more comments about that one than anything else.
Well,
of
that
course,
was-
I'm always buying the.
That was your
drums,
most
so
memorable outfit, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Nurse Bacon.
That was pretty early on.
And
though.
what about
I think I
you?
was-
Yours, Kat?
I don't know. The one I probably wore the most, I guess, would be my favorite was Supergirl. The Statue of Liberty was a classic. The fairy, the pink fairy, or the gold fairy. I would say
it
the
was
gold
gold.
fairy. Yeah, a complete gold outfit.
Speaking of the Gold Fairy, we played in Memphis one time at this place called Barristers, and he was dressed like that, and he would throw glitter out. Well, I saw somewhere on down the line, I think someone had posted a song online, and in the comments, some guy was on leave from the Army, and he came to the show. And he was sitting right up front, and Cat threw the glitter out, and it had got in his beer. And he said, I was broke. I was in the Army. I'm drinking this fucking beer. So he drank the beer, and he said, I should have sparkly gold glitter turds for 2 weeks.
What about you, Don? Did you have a favorite?
You know, my favorite personally, I had a little summer yellow dress that was always very comfortable.
That was
and-
comfortable because I'm pretty sure I wore that.
Yeah,
a couple times, too.
yeah. That was my favorite. But I probably the most notorious thing is April made me a Madonna spiked bra,
yeah.
and I would wear that on occasion, and that always went over very big. And I ended up giving it to some girl in some town. She's like, I want that bra. And I was like, well, then you must have it. Very strange. People wanted our clothes.
I remember I did the Eve costume one time. I think we were playing in Dallas, and I had a lamb, and I had snakes, wrapped around my arm, and some girl took my lamb. She was just supposed to hold it. What about your bright idea that time to wear Christmas lights across your body while you were sweating? And hooked up to a guitar, and all of a sudden he stopped playing and looked over, and he's going, he's just shaking at the chords, and it's like, what the fuck's going on? He was getting
And I really thought that was brilliant. I was like, why has no one done this before? This is so damn easy, and it looks so good.
Well, what happened?
Well, I started sweating.
He got it unplugged.
And about 10 minutes into the set, it's hot. I'm starting to sweat. The electric part of that is mixing with the microphone. And so every time I would come in contact with the microphone, it was shocking me. And then it got to the point wherever if I touched the guitar strings, it was shocking me. And at one point, I remember looking over and like Philip Hill was on the side of the stage, and I'm like, "Unplug the lights! Unplug the lights!" Because I was still trying to play, and it was just shocking the shit out of me. Bad idea.
And now you know why no one else does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was messing up. It was one of the few times I'd look over at him, because usually I'd get lost in a song and I'd look over and he'd be showing me the guitar like right here, and I'm going, what? Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, the Dayglow body paints that we all wore one night with the strobe lights was good costumes too.
So there was some coordination too sometimes.
Occasionally,
And,
sometimes.
and
Occasionally,
themes
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Oh,
we-
absolutely, yeah.
We'd have discussions about it and plan what was going to happen for sure.
Yeah, later on, especially.
Yeah,
like,
it
a
became.
couple
It
years
wasn't
in,
just
maybe.
outfits. It became
Right.
like we'd have like some sort of stuff planned to actually happen between songs and stuff.
We always had friends that would get up on the stage and do stuff. And people asking, I want to do something with y'all. And we'd either say, come up with something, tell us what you're going to do. We'll plug it into the set where it's going to happen. Or we'd say, we need somebody to do this.
So what were some of the themes or the?
We did the Robert Palmer.
Oh yeah,
where
We
the three
started,
of us dressed like the women with the
yeah.
white face and the dresses, and he was Robert Palmer.
and we did like the first few bars of "Addicted to Love" before we got into our set. And
The
classic.
greased pig.
Did we? Oh yeah, the greased pig. I forgot about the greased pig.
That was at 328.
I think,
I
well,
believe.
328, that was, we
had
did
a
all
whole
kinds of
big
crazy
show,
stuff.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
like our wildest show, yeah.
Yeah, we knew we were going to be playing to a bunch of people, so we had something going on in
Every,
between song,
during
the songs, and then at the end, everybody comes on stage, and then a big part of the crowd came on the stage, and the sound guy there was screaming, "They don't take their shit out of this building until we find out what
Yeah.
damage is done," because we're shooting silly string and
They said,
and
they said the
confetti,
they said the glitter I was throwing like messed up their monitors, and they said
we were
that
throwing food, popcorn, toast. We did
broke a
all that.
microphone supposedly, which was just a little dent in the.
I think he charged them $200, and we were free to take our stuff after the show. But we did make a mess. I mean, April and my wife at the time were dressed as maids, and they would come out dusting us as we played. And then we had Jeff Fireball came out and act like security and was trying to shut down the show, and everyone's throwing shit at him, fuck you. And then Tommy Holt, and what was your friend that had the red hair?
John Tanner.
John Tanner came out, and they were dressed like cops, and they were dancing and shoving donuts in their mouth. And I just remember looking off at the end of the song, and Tommy was in a G-string.
Well, they were
John was in
they were stripping
underwear.
cops.
Stripping.
Yeah. They
and
kept
they were
cops
on the
like they were
ground making out. Like, I was just like, oh, okay.
This
Here
is
we
all
go.
at one show.
Yeah,
all in one
All
show.
at
It was,
one
it was the
time.
it was the 91 Rock benefit. We knew it was the biggest show we were
Right.
probably ever going to play, so we broke out all the stops for that one.
We had 2 toasters, and April and Andrea were making toast and throwing it at the crowd.
I think we bought 2 of them big, huge, giant bags of popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
And there was silly string, and then I don't know if it was you throwing glitter. Remember we had these 2 women.
Oh, that's
with
right.
big
Yeah, you're
giant
right. I wasn't
masks,
throwing.
and they came
yeah,
out and were dancing.
You're right.
and-
It was them because I wasn't throwing glitter because I was also a maid at that show. It was like Donnie, Andrea and April were maids, and I was a maid too.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be throwing glitter. That was my fairy dust. So.
Well, then, speaking of getting people to do stuff, we had the idea one time, the one he was talking about where we painted up in the glow-in-the-dark paint. We got people up on stage to play kazoos, but they're supposed to try to kind of play along with the song. There's actually a video, you can find it online. It's "Leave Me Alone," and they're just going, it's like, oh.
Yeah, there's like 2 videos on YouTube, and they're the worst shows ever. I mean, it's just
I
like,
don't know if I've ever seen those.
There's
Yeah,
one
it's bad.
The one in Atlanta we're playing in the restaurant.
Dottie's.
People just like walking by, and we're like dressed up in our costumes, like confronting people. Like these people just walking by, like the most disinterested people you've ever seen.
that everybody hated us, and we're just like, hey,
Yeah.
if you'll give us money, we'll stop. Until you do, we're not.
And then we wouldn't stop anyway. We did that at a party one time too. They all were hiding in the kitchen, and they collected up a bunch of money. We said, if you give some money, we'll stop. And they came in and we're like, oh, we lied. We're still going to play.
So
take the money?
as
Yeah, we
popular
took
as we
their
were,
money.
apparently as popular as we
You gonna
were
come
in
take it
Nashville
back?
and Huntsville, other towns we were like that as the reverse of that.
What was your first out of town show?
Oh, man.
Murfreesboro or Huntsville? It had to be
Huntsville
somewhere
or-
close. Either
Yeah.
Murfreesboro or Huntsville.
Let
I'm
me
sure.
rephrase that question. What was your first out of town show? Further away than Murfreesboro.
Probably Huntsville.
Probably Huntsville.
Yeah,
In
and we
fact,
were
I
and we
think
were
it
big in
was.
Huntsville.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
we
it
were.
was because I think we jumped on a bill with the Teen Idols.
I
was a great
remember
guy.
a show that we played in Huntsville, and we played in some kind of, it was like an antique store, and it was closed. And there was no stage, and it was just kind of in the middle of the room, and we were on the ground with all the crowd, and it was basically a tug of war on if you could finish a song without all your stuff being thrown on the ground.
Yeah,
Isn't- and
people
isn't
would
that
push
where
up against you, and your guitar would just mute, and
And they were falling into the drums, and I mean the microphones are going everywhere, and it was a battle the whole show. It was
a
really
pretty-
really
is
yeah, it was a
fun.
great
great.
crowd show. It wasn't.
Yes.
Didn't, wasn't
Oh,
Joey?
great.
Didn't Joey Tackon like dressed up like a barber and like didn't he shave your head at that show or something? Or wasn't he giving free haircuts or something?
No.
Joey from the Slackers and Joey.
No, what I remember at
Toxic
that
Shots.
show was I had some whipped cream, and he was back behind me standing up on something. He kept fucking with me, so I stuck this whipped cream shape, put it down his pants, and then I grabbed it like I was going down on him because I thought it would embarrass him.
Yeah, he was pretty hammered there.
I did get my head shaved.
Everybody was
Didn't
pretty
embarrass
hammered,
him at all.
except for you, Kat.
Except for me, yeah. But I may as well have been the way things were going.
I just remember that was just like, it
And
was
then-
a great show, but it was just a full on.
And
How
someone
do we get
ran
through it?
off
Yeah.
and it stole the money and ran off at that show.
Yeah.
I remember that too. He used to play Huntsville all the time, and Chris kind of brought it up earlier. We were playing there one time, and I don't know if it's the same time it was your birthday, but he got drunk as hell.
I was plastered.
And like the first 3 songs,
I think that was
we
our-
were just all looking at each other. He was playing something else. He went back to Caustic Solutions because it's like.
Was that our first? Was that our first
Holy
Huntsville
shit.
show?
I think
Yeah.
it was 2 or 3 in.
Yeah,
but-
he was
and-
early.
And I don't think we realized how trashed he
Yeah.
was until he was trying to set up his drums.
I
and it
don't
was
think
like,
I did either.
It's like, what the fuck is going on here? You're going to have to pull this together. And then we started playing, and it was just, it was.
It was a shit show for about the first 3 or 4 songs, and then he finally kind of pulls it together good enough, and then all of a sudden at one point he's like, "It's my birthday, I'm taking my underwear off." And his underwear goes out into the crowd, hits somebody's face. I'm like, okay, here we go.
And of course, some of the punk rock kids in Nashville were like, "That's the best show y'all have ever done."
Yeah, I murdered him that night with my eyes.
Yes, I vaguely remember that. That started through different bands. That started a tradition of every show that we had playing birthdays. In my later bands, we did it naked.
Like completely naked?
Yeah.
We did do an encore in Murfreesboro in our underwear.
Yeah, we'd gone out to the van and someone came out. They want y'all to play some more, and we'd already taken everything. We were in our underwear, and we're like,
Because we'd always said
do it
no
like
encore-
this.
Yeah,
Let's
we always
go
said no
back.
encores. We never actually did it. We never actually planned to ever did an encore or by intention because we thought it was cheesy, and that was one they insisted. So,
The stripped down.
well, the
version of
guitar,
Young
the
Girls.
guitar on that doesn't always hide everything. Because speaking of Huntsville again, one time we were playing in a place we played all the time, Tip Top Cafe, and I was wearing a 2-piece bathing suit, which a woman's bathing suit is not cut to hold everything. So I kept noticing these 2 girls over
Your
beside the
junk?
stage. Every time I look over, they were like, just like giggling. I'm like, what the fuck? So I kept trying to ask them, what are y'all laughing at? So after the show, they came up and said, your balls were hanging out the whole set. And I actually got a picture that someone had gave me, and you can see them over there like looking at each other going,
I just remember looking over there and going, God, what are
There
we
were many
doing?
of those times.
This is too far. This
Chris
is too
had
far.
the rear view too, always. So my see-through negligees. And,
Yes.
Did it ever
Yes.
get scary, or what was the worst experience? Or
Memphis just hated us, everything about us.
Yeah.
So it was, we never went over
where
well.
where were you playing?
Barristers, and I think we played at a couple of other places. I mean, that same show that, that I came off stage and I went over to grab a beer at the bar, and there was this old guy there, and he looked at me, he goes, I got to tell you something. I'm like, okay, go ahead. He said, that was the worst guitar playing I have ever seen in my life. And I said, well, I really appreciate that because I've been working at it pretty damn hard. Cheers. And walked away.
you just get sometime, 'cause
we were not their style. Yeah, they put all the
What
bands
about-
on the bill were like these like super like growly. I don't know what they call them now.
Crust punk.
Yeah, crust punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the Cookie Monster bands basically.
Did they take it too seriously?
Oh,
too?
yeah.
Oh, they
Yeah.
way
So-
too serious.
Yeah, because
So
we were.
So
They were
you
pi-
decidedly
I
did
mean, we
not.
took our band serious. We practiced.
Yeah.
We were pretty tight, and we did our thing. But
Yeah.
it's like come and have fun. We
Cat
just,
had a-
don't take yourself so seriously.
at that the thing I remember, Cat had a bar of soap, and he took it and he goes, hey.
Oh yeah, the Andy Kaufman thing.
Yeah, he's like, hey, see this? This is called a bar of soap. He said, if you'll use this on a daily basis, you might smell a lot better because it's pretty nasty in here. I'm surprised they didn't just beat the shit out of him.
Maybe she just thinks I'm in the way, but she won't give me the time of day. Maybe it's just something that said that made her throw a brick at my head. When I listen to music all night, she gets mad. Tries to start fighting, I don't care if you do. I love, she pushes me, I'll give her a shove. Girlfriend hates me, and I think you ought to know.
Yeah, I'd say all of our worst shows were because we didn't have anyone there. We played in Texas and played in Houston, and there was just literally no one there. I mean, and so those shows are hard, and that's I think most of the time if we played to a crowd, most of them got it and enjoyed it, and we had a good experience. But trying to find a crowd when you're out of town is always a challenge.
Usually depends on the band you play with.
The other end of that is you're talking about Man or Asher Man.
Mm-hmm.
We got a show opening up for them in Atlanta, and I just thought with their musical style and ours, I'm like, we're gonna bomb. It's gonna be a big crowd because they're popular, and there's 400 or 500 people in this club. We got beer. We got to drink their beer because they didn't drink beer. Someone that used to live in Nashville lived right down the street. We sold a bunch of merchandise and stuff, and we got up and played, and it went over good.
Yeah.
I mean, they loved us, so we had a crowd that wasn't, tailor-made for us or anything, but we...
The stage show, probably.
Yeah.
Like I say,
Yeah.
just, even if you don't
remember
like the
that
music.
guy the sound guy kept shutting us down. We had the toasters up there, and he's like, "What's the toasters for?" "Oh, we make toast and throw that out." "No, you can't do that." And then, "What's the popcorn maker for?" "Make popcorn." No, you can't. You can't do that.
He was
It's like, "Well, shit, man. Can we play?"
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was an interesting show. We played a house show there, and I don't know whose idea it was, but Cat had some Cheese Whiz, and people would just come up to the front, and he would squeeze Cheese Whiz in their mouth, so they got a hold of the can, and it ended up all over the hardwood floors. So they were all just skating around while they were dancing and stuff. So I think we came back and played like a year later, and they're like, "No food. No food." We have just finally got all that fucking cheese out of the floor. And then the first thing Chris had one of them little suckers that got a little concave part in it, and it's got a little juice you can put in the sucker, and they squirt all over the fucking ceiling.
I did
was
that.
like, "Oh!"
I don't remember that.
He said no food. Shit.
What was the first Fun Girls record recorded? You put out how many total?
High Doll.
Four?
Hey,
It was High Doll, and I was telling Chris when we came in here, we recorded in something like this. We recorded in an attic in Murfreesboro, and it was like a little room like this. Chris was like in that room. I think you were in the bathroom.
At one point,
Or something like that.
They moved around different places or something.
And it was Forrest York was the producer. He was in a band. I can't remember the name of
These
it.
are houseplants.
These are
Yeah.
houseplants. They played Lucy's at one point, and he had recorded some stuff for Rednecks in Pain, and he had done a good job, but we were pretty disappointed with the overall production of that. I don't think he was into what we were doing, and so he just kind of mailed it in, and it it just didn't it didn't really capture the essence of what we were. I don't think, but
Yeah, I felt the same way. It's like I remember I was hanging out with Jay from BR549 at the time. He was in Hellbilly, name drop, ting. But yeah, and I'd met John Van Etten and through him, and I was hanging out with him, and they were playing me some of the Hellbilly stuff, and I was like, "This sounds way better than our stuff." It's like, where'd you record this? And that's how we connected with the studio where we record everything else, and John produced the next record for us. So
Which was
Lunchbox.
Yeah,
Lunchbox.
Yeah.
Lunchbox, which is just a beautiful, beautiful piece of.
It's award winning.
Mess.
It's award winning.
Definitely
It is
award-winning.
literally award winning. Won a NAMI, right, in Nashville
That's
area
right.
music award
Up for one other one too.
best.
No, the band was up for one other. We were up for like the best unsigned band.
Oh, okay.
So
And we were.
yeah, we didn't win it, but we were the best unsigned.
But
band.
it did win for best artwork.
In fact,
who
it was-
wants to describe what Lunchbox was?
It was a mockery of box sets. It was an idea I'd come up with. We were trying to think of what to do for the artwork on the next record, and that's when like box sets were a big thing. Like all these bands were putting out like box set collections, and I'd said like, wouldn't it be funny to put out a box set with, for our second record, and it's just like a 7-inch with like some trashy like thrift store 7-inch with it, and just a bunch of crap in there with it. And so that's how it came about. So,
We had a good
Trading
idea
cards.
come out of that too. Yeah, we did the trading cards.
yeah. Trading cards.
Which her copy did. It said trading cards coming soon. Contact us.
Oh,
and
because
it literally right after I found that out, went home, looked in my little folder. I've got some trading cards for you.
You got trading cards for me,
I
so
do.
I can bring you the little coupon that's
Yes,
in the box
yes,
set,
you
and
can
I
cash
can trade
in.
them in.
Yes, I still
have
have
a whole
a
set of them
that is-
too.
I have a
think.
bunch of extra trading
The gum's
cards.
gonna
Yeah, I
be
got a
real
ton.
stale. Because we actually did put gum. What we do is we bought gum and we would turn the label inside out, re-glue it, and we had a stamp that said "chew on this," and we'd actually put gum in the trading card packs too.
So it was your actual record,
Right.
your actual 7-inch that you just found at a thrift store.
Yeah,
that you ran
45
randomly.
or something.
Right.
It had a
then
booklet.
A booklet.
Might
right?
have some trading cards, and then we would, since it was a lunchbox, we would throw in like a spork and some napkins, and then sometimes when we were putting together, if we were eating, we would put our dirty napkins and stuff in there.
Or hot sauce from Taco Bell.
Hot
I
sauce,
literally
yeah.
would go. I'd be driving down West End and have to stop every day and grab a handful of hot sauce and take it home so that we could fill the.
How many?
I remember there's one that
were
had
there?
put some
How many-
candy. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how many lunch boxes are there? Were there? What was
There's
the
probably
run?
1,500.
1,500.
1,500 of the record and probably another 200 of the cassette.
And so what were you going to say?
Oh, just that I was commenting about the stuff in the box. I remember there's one time that I put some candy. I guess it was me that put someone put candy in one of them, and I was usually the person that sold the merch for us because they'd send me after the shows to like go work the merch while they took down the stuff, and someone brought theirs back to me. It's like. This has candy melted all over it. The candy inside melted all over it. So there was a few foibles like that we had to make.
refunds.
Yeah, we had to make.
That's not chocolate.
Yeah.
Get out of here. No refunds, sucker.
Yeah. Sometimes our gimmicks backfire like that.
For sure.
And the box was actually an old tape box, right?
Tape reel box.
Yeah, we had
reel
ordered
box.
a bulk of reel-to-reel boxes to do that.
And who did the illustration?
That was me.
Yeah, Cat
Yeah.
did that one.
And did you do the illustration of the famous T-shirt too, the bra with the hairy chest?
No, that would
yeah.
be my chest.
That would actually be your
That'd be my
self-portrait.
chest
That was a
and-
self-portrait.
And
I
the
think I
brawl
still
that was
have
at
one
my
of
house.
those too.
Okay, so then does Diary of a Mad Woman come next?
I think it was a
there's
split.
Yeah, the
Split with the
split.
Slackers came
Slackers, yeah.
next.
And then Diary was last. Or Dairy. It was Dairy.
Dairy of a
Yeah.
Mad Woman, yeah.
Yeah.
Who wrote most of the songs?
Lyrically, I wrote all the
Yeah.
vocal parts and lyrics, but musically, I thought it was either of those two guys. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a split. You know, of course, the whole first record was probably Donnie because it was he was writing songs, and then once I learned to play a little bit, I would start coming in with stuff. But then I think there were some songs where I got this piece. You know, we need something here,
Yeah.
and he would come up with something. And of course, Chris would always do
we were good about
do
having-
your thing.
Yeah, we were we were
Yeah.
good about. It was the first. Of course, I'd only been in one other, two bands if you count. So the second one was only lasted 2 shows. Right, but like it was a real good. They would come in. Whoever would come in with whatever idea. We did flesh out a lot of the arrangements together in the practice room. So it was-
Right.
We were definitely a democracy.
Yeah, it
It's
was a
bunch
good
of pieces,
collaboration.
and we kind of came together and put it all.
Yeah, and
put it all together.
I
Definitely.
always felt like it made people's ideas better. I mean, because like when someone comes in and just says, "I got this song, you're gonna play it this way," it might be okay, but when
Yeah.
you have other ideas and someone hears a part, and we had enough similar influences that we could work together, but we also had enough different influences that we could bring in different ideas and things. So
You could tell someone like right there, could you maybe try to do something else?
yeah.
And there wasn't like an argument like you're not playing it right. But there's also a lot of times too, especially with Chris, he'd be playing something how you describe to someone how to play drums who plays drums, but do something more bouncy, and he wouldn't exactly always come up with exactly what I was thinking about, but it'd be like better. I'm like, yeah, that'll work. Or
I think mostly it started with a riff, and I would bring in a lot of riffs, and then these guys would get hold of it, and it would evolve as we practiced it, and it would change, and then you would know when it was there. You would go, all right, that's pretty good. Let's keep that. Let's quit
Right.
screwing with this and go with it.
then we came up with the song Cookies. Chris and I, like if we got there early or they were messing around doing whatever, him and I would always get into some kind of Melvin's type of slow plodding stuff, or we'd do some real fast, death metal. And Tommy Holt would one time I don't know if he coined the phrase, but I remember he
He's
said
the first
why
person I
not?
ever heard say it.
Yeah, he was
Cookie
mentioning
Monster.
he was saying death metal band. Oh, you mean Cookie Monster bands? And we just thought that was funny. Then so Chris and I were doing this thing, and we're like, oh yeah, you should just like sing like the Cookie Monster. So that just became, Cookie, where you just cookies. Of course, he would wear a mask on stage, and he would throw cookies out. And there was another interesting thing in the band. We always threw shit out, but it came back. And one of those little stuffed sandwich cookies hitting you in the forehead, just exploding on your fucking forehead. Didn't always feel real good.
Consequences of your performance.
Yeah, candy was the worst. You think it's like a soft caramel or something won't hurt. It hurts.
It's soft after you chew it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's why we did a
Something-
lot of toast.
flying through the
Toast
air.
cannot hurt you.
But yeah, someone
Stuffed
one time
animals.
was throwing razor blades were hitting me at Lucy's one show. We were playing and something was hitting me, and I'm thinking, okay, it's typical. And I looked down. I just happened to look down when something hit me, and I saw there's about 6 razor blades. So I just remember in between songs, I'm just like, do you want to be brave and step up here? I'll stomp your ass in this negligee. I will do it. I will try to do it. I don't know if I will. Remember at the this is when Tommy was in the band. We played at what the fuck the place by the McDonald's by the park. Springwater. We played Springwater.
How do we forget the
Springwater? But we were playing. I think it was the Vibes and Spider Virus.
That was it. Yeah.
And there was a guy that was with Spider Virus, and he just fucking hated us. And he would just stand up at the front of the stage, and in between songs, he would just, say something. So he had on this hat, and I remember it being like, you remember Fat Albert, that character Rudy, had the big floppy hat with the bill. I think one of the guys in Pearl Jam had a hat like that. Yeah. And so at some point he got frustrated, and he threw it, and then Cat threw it back, and then it came up there, and Chris caught it, and he threw it back, and then we threw it, and Cat come with one of the best lines ever. He's like, "Where's he getting all these hats?" So then he just would not fucking quit. So finally I just kind of took my bass off, and I remember having it by the neck, and I said, I will just go off on you right here just like this. I had my little my thigh-high stockings with my little garter straps, and I was like, I don't know how it's going to go, but I know it's going to happen to you with me dressed like this. I don't know if you want to do that.
It's not going to be good.
It's not going to be weirdly sexy.
Yeah, this is Lionel Baker at the Dragon's Lair, you little fucking pussies. I have enough goddamn trouble having to deal with the goddamn pigs up here that you little smart-ass assholes. You little pseudo-punks that think you know every fucking thing. Well, you don't know shit, pal. You're a little two-faced. You're friendly to my goddamn face when you want me to push your little goddamn records, and then you go and do this stupid fucking shit. Well, pal, we're going to hunt your goddamn ass down. You better start getting you some goddamn leg braces, because you're going to end up hobbling around here like Bobby Steele is, you goddamn little assholes.
Why did you leave the Fun Girls?
I was. We've touched on this before, but I was kind of burnt out on a lot of what was going on, and also Samantha was about to be born, and I just knew I didn't have enough time to do it, and I wanted to give my focus to being a parent, and so I just said, I've got to bow out, and I don't want to do it, but it's time, and so that's what I did.
And then you had tryouts for a new guitar player?
Yeah.
How'd those
and
go?
we kind of been texting about this a little bit, and I'm really sticking with this Ian guy. He's a good kid. He's a good kid. When we're arguing, we think we had 3 people.
Yeah, I don't think they've got their story
Chris?
straight.
Yeah.
That's what happens when I leave. They can't get their shit together.
I definitely know
We kinda knew that was gonna happen.
I definitely know Crispin tried out too. I remember him.
Yeah, I
So
remember
that's
the
the thing.
Crispin dude.
Yeah.
We had Tommy Holt,
Tommy, Dallas, the Crispin guy.
and I thought I remember Ian.
See,
I think
I
it's
don't
Ian
remember.
Bishop,
Ian,
and Tommy
yeah,
does too. The
yeah.
Cat and I have been talking about, and he said maybe he was gonna try out,
Okay.
and we had already chosen Tommy.
And I don't know Crispin, but I do think Tommy was the right personality to take the slot, because he was more in tune with the rest of the guys, and I think Dallas is awesome, and I love Dallas, but I think he would have changed the dynamic of Fun Girls.
Well, I think too that wasn't there an issue of Crispin and Dallas were both younger,
Definitely
and we
Crispin,
played
yeah.
bar shows, and we were wondering if
Yeah,
maybe they
actually,
couldn't
I
get
do
in a show,
remember
but I
that.
don't ever remember
Yeah.
being carded going into
And
a
I
club
remember-
to play. But
Yeah, and of course Tommy earned his stripes because he had done so much
Yeah.
with us. He was always kind of like the 5th Fun Girl.
He was the,
Yeah.
I think, well, he was a part of the Grease Pig show.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if he was.
He's on the
Grease
cover
No,
of
he
Diary of
wasn't
a Madman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or Mad Woman.
Woman, yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
He is?
yeah,
He
yeah,
is.
he's
He's
the kid sitting
he's
at
the
the table.
Ozzy.
Right.
No,
I'm sorry.
no, the
I
Ozzy's
just
a
can't-
woman.
I
Yeah.
can't get past Dana.
Yeah.
Like, Dana is
This is such a great picture of Dana. It's so much
We
fun.
took that way too far, and nobody understood it.
Yeah, I don't think they did either.
No, and
I think it's brilliant, but
Yeah.
most people don't get it.
no, and she gave the extra dedication. Actually, dumped the milk on her head. That's no Photoshop. She dumped that whole carton of milk on her, and I don't think that the photo does it justice. So what
Yeah.
she actually did. The other thing with Dallas too, I remember was he had said something, made a comment at some point about like, well, I'm not going to be able to write any songs. I don't know. And it was something like,
He said that I can play this, but this is not really what I want to play. Which you see
Yeah.
what he went on to play,
Right,
which is
right,
just
definitely
some
way
amazing
different,
shit.
yeah.
It's not Fun Girls; it's some heavy and some intricate shit. And so I mean, to me, that was kind of like, well, if he's he's not really going to be that into it.
Yeah,
and
I
also he
remember
was
that.
telling me, you can play this here. I'm like, this don't
Yeah.
broke. This don't fix what ain't broke, baby. You know what you're doing. Just look
me
at
do
me
my
and just
thing.
play that shit.
Yeah.
And Tommy had a car that he was willing to use to pull a fucking trailer, so that was a bonus for Tim. But he had been doing stuff with us on stage, and we all knew him, and he was a goofy guy. So,
Yeah.
I guess I did take the van vehicle with me when I left, didn't I?
Yeah.
Shit, I didn't
that
think
was-
about
that's
that.
true.
that was an issue.
I think we were in a Monte Carlo with a trailer hitch pulling a trailer, rolling 4 deep, baby.
Yeah, Tommy even possibly he talked about even the possibility of buying a van.
Yeah.
It was like going.
Yeah.
I remember too. Yeah, I didn't find this out till after the years after the band was over. He was like taking guitar lessons from
Yeah.
some old blues guy.
No, I remember that.
And I didn't know that. This guy was teaching him all our songs. I thought he was learning them on his own.
no.
He had someone actually show him.
Yeah, I knew that, and we had.
I didn't know that.
We
I
actually
bet the
some of
blues
us-
guy was like, "Are you sure?
The blues guy.
I'm trying to teach you something
Meets
here.
the
We're
Fun
not really
Girls.
learning much."
Well, I remember we had a tape too with some of the songs that we hadn't recorded, so we made a tape of it, and so he had that tape to learn those newer songs, and I think we had 6 to 8 songs that we had never
There's only
recorded.
4 on that tape. Yeah.
And then I think we might have wrote a couple with him.
Yeah, we were at one
But-
with him. I remember.
But yeah, he was
Yeah, we
he
learned a
was
couple more
putting in
covers
the
with
work to learn how to do it. But talking about getting ready, he would have drove Donnie fucking nuts. He was
Yeah,
a prima
yeah.
donna. on the
Oh yeah, and he
stage.
was like, yeah,
He was really.
He was in. He
high
was,
shadow.
he
I'm
took
like,
that
dude,
shit
man.
serious,
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was
definitely.
kind of like, it was like going like, we're doing this to be funny. I was like, he
Right.
was like actually like going full drag queen.
And he looked great. He looked great, but we did have a time slot we had to play in. And if you're taking longer than Kat and I, we got a fucking problem here, man.
And yet your outfit's not funnier than ours.
I at least appreciate that you guys recognize that. That's helpful.
I mean, Kat probably like me. We were getting hand-me-downs. We were going to the
Yeah. He's buying-
used stores and stuff.
He's buying
and
like professional wigs and
75. I
stuff.
mean, he bought a $75 leather mini dress. I was like, holy shit, you're dedicated. We
so
always
great.
had a cover song
Yeah.
in our thing when we would take turns. Who would get to pick a
Right.
song to play a cover
So
song.
after every show, you would play a cover?
Every show we had
Yeah,
a cover song.
At least one.
And we just kind of rotated around. Like it'd be his turn. I think I remember him picking Nursing Home Blues by DRI. And then I was thinking about this the other day. I think you picked it, and we played that acoustic show at that coffee house in Murfreesboro. And we played Faith because I saw a song, movie the other night, and they had that song Faith in it.
We did play an all acoustic show in Murfreesboro one time.
Yeah, we
Got a
played
video
that.
of that.
And the thing I like later noticed about that, I always thought, man, that show like took forever. And like thinking back, we slowed everything down because it was a lounge act. So
Yeah.
I think we probably played.
Yeah, we
like,
had
45
everybody
songs
instead of
double
clapping,
the
we want you
amount of
to
times. Yeah.
snap your fingers. And I think we had a deal too where if you showed up in pajamas, you got in for free. Because we did like we were at a camp out. We had the fake logs down there, and we had sticks, and we were acting like we were roasting hot dogs and marshmallows. And but I remember we had one. A cat picked turning Japanese one time, and Donnie tried for about a month, and he's like, pick another
That's
one.
not
I didn't
gonna-
pull that one off.
I don't understand what this song is doing, and so next.
There was an occasional veto. It was usually my picks. That got
And I
vetoed.
love that song, so it wasn't
Yeah.
a veto because I didn't
Right,
like the
right.
song. It was because I couldn't play it.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to pull it together.
Yeah, I listened to it, and I listened to the bass line. I was like, nah. I couldn't even get even close
Usually
to that.
Chris picked the hard songs. Usually the songs I picked were
Yeah,
easy.
Nursing Home Blues was a
Yeah, that one
fucking-
was tough.
That was a
Yeah.
challenge. I would cramp up in my forearm trying to play. But as far as the cover songs, my favorite was "People Who Died" by Jim Carroll. That was
Yeah.
always my favorite,
Same
and it
here.
seemed like that was one of the ones that went over the best.
We played it more than the most.
Yeah.
I really like playing "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." That was a lot of.
Yeah.
That was a good one to play. That was one of
Yeah.
Chris's picks. Yeah.
Well, did we ever fully play? What was the song by Mike and the Mechanics?
I don't.
Josie's on a
Oh no, that's
vacation.
Outfield. And yes, we did,
Outfield.
but that was after Tommy quit. That was. I mean, that's after Donnie quit. That was a Tommy song.
And
I didn't know if we always
And I
just
would
did
have
that.
vetoed that had I been around, just so you know.
I just thought I always remember us just playing that first little part of it. And
We
everyone
played,
would
we
go,
played it with Tommy.
play
Yeah,
it.
we played it with Tommy.
That is just not right.
Well, we had that Devo song.
Oh, yeah,
Uncontrollable
Uncontrollable
Urge.
Urge.
We
One
were
of my
actually playing
favorites.
in
That was a
Dayton,
good one.
Ohio.
Yeah.
And we tried to play it, and it just fucking fell apart. They were all like, "Oh!" It's like,
There weren't many people there at that show anyway. I remember.
So people have said great things about Fun Girls over
Liars.
over the last several years. On that Stuck It episode, Jeremy and Mike said that your show at 328 was transformational. They called you our Beatles. They said it was mind-blowing. I've read online, people said the best band ever on the face of the planet, favorite Lucy's band.
They haven't seen any other bands.
I think you guys maybe don't understand the impact that you had on the punk rock community, you know, the younger generation of players, and I think between the songs and the theatrics, and it really was transformational for a lot of people. So
I think that's awesome. If that's what someone took away from our performance, then that's great. I mean, that's what we strive to do. We were trying to make music that people enjoyed. I mean, you don't do this stuff just because we're in a room and we're like, okay, we like this stuff, so that's cool. I mean, you want to connect. You want to have something that where you give something and somebody gives you something back. And we were fortunate enough to have that happen. And that's all I ever wanted. I mean, that's why I'm satisfied to not be in a band anymore and just be retired, because I got it out of my system and I felt good about what we did.
I've had people say that stuff to me too, and at first I've always kind of like, don't blow smoke up my ass, But I mean, if they really did like us that much, then great. And I did see, I did get some payback from that with the Mighty Jabronis, because people like Tower Defense and the Deads, they would say, like, they would ask my new band to play with them because of they said we influenced them.
sometimes I think about, like, okay, we were just this little band, but I mean, we did start it as we wanted to be like kind of a fun band and everybody be kind of included. It was almost like, everybody can come, everybody just, but like, thinking we were nothing. Like when I started playing with these guys, when I said I didn't never play before, I was fans of them. They were, they kind of influenced me. It was so it was a big deal to me. That's why I go home and practice every night, because it's like I'm gonna play. I'm gonna do it with these guys. So and they might look at their bands and go, "Oh, well, we were just this little band." But to me, when I got into all that music, that was what was big to me. These are people I know. These are people just, and even other bands that came through town. It was just someone that just, we're gonna play, we're gonna go out, we're gonna meet people, we're gonna take our music, make it, share it with people. So so it is hard for me sometimes.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd tell Donnie sometime, man, I don't know how to play music. I can't tell you. I could pick up bass and they go, play an E's, and I go, whatever. Where is that at? I'd have to count and go, what, but
Yeah.
you can just do it. So I mean, they kind of influenced me, and I saw all that. I used to listen to heavy metal and all that, and I started hanging around these people that
You listen to heavy metal?
I still do.
Oh my God!
I do it in secret.
I've noticed nowadays, like if you read stuff like the National Punk page, like people are equating like punk rock and metal, and it's like, man, when I grew up, it was completely opposite.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's like punk
Well,
and metal are
I remember
antithesis.
being in high school and listening to metal, and we had these friends, not only Donnie and I, that had friends that were in metal bands, and to me, they were cut off unless you were a hot girl or you had something you could do for them. They didn't want to have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And that really kind of, turned me off. And then here I meet all these people and I'm hanging out. And it's like, what? You're putting a show together. You're playing in this parking garage. What? And you can just do it. You can put your own record out. It's like, that was, that kind of just changed me. I mean, I still like metal, don't get me wrong, but, I don't want to hang out with those people.
So Kat came from a total punk rock background. I came from a total metal background. I think Chris is probably more metal than he is punk, and I'm pretty sure Troy is more metal than he is punk. So it was a kind of a divergent of influences that kind of brought us all together. That created this. Sometimes we were really poppy punk. Sometimes we were kind of hardcore. We were never metal, but I mean,
Cookie.
the influence was there. Yeah, the influence was always there.
It happened again. It's becoming a trend. Another mistake. I realized too late. Another chance is gone. What went wrong? I can't get a decent break. And I wanna be just like Billy D. Williams Suave.
What was the most fun thing for you about being in the Fun Girls?
For me, it was playing guitar in a band, which is what I'd always wanted to do for my entire life. It was the whole essence of what I wanted to be, and to be able to actually get to do it and have some people look back at me and go, "This is cool," was everything I always wanted in life. So to be a guitar player in a punk band and have people really enjoy what we were doing it was all good for me. To have a crowded room that really was giving it back to, because if you play, everybody can play a show, and if you played a show and there's nobody there and there's no connection, there's nothing going on, there's nothing. If you play that show and people give it back to you, it becomes a real magical thing. And we were fortunate to get to be in the magic, and we had more magic than we had bad. So I'm just totally thrilled that I got to do that, and these guys are all part of that. So I really dig these guys.
Yeah, I guess I'd be almost seconding what Donnie said. But to put it in my own words, it was performing, creating and performing, getting to do that, and like you said, in front of appreciative people. I mean, my entire adult life, from the moment I was 18 until like whatever, with a few exceptions, I've always had to do something that's creative, but not like behind the scenes creative. I've got to be performing in front of people, and I got to do that I got to do that in multiple bands and through wrestling and all that, and just getting to and also getting to create too. It's not like being in you could perform in a cover band. I've done that a couple times too, but it's not the same. It's getting to actually create your own stuff, write your own material, and having the people that appreciate it. In fact, the two moments in time when I have not been doing that, it's like I fell a little down at those times, but like kind of at this point in my life, I'm not doing anything like that, and I really am trying to think of what do I want to do next. And then of course, there was like my marriage years, but I was focusing on something different then. I was focusing
We don't
on
talk about those.
Yeah, well, it's not bad, but I was focused on being just a husband and making a living at a job. But I always miss not having something creative and where I can perform in front of people.
Troy, what put the fun in Fun Girls for you?
I think like what they said, just being able to create songs and go out and play it to people and then get that reaction back from them. It was fun coming up with the ideas of what was going to go on the show. My mind would just go fucking just, we can do this, we can do this, and just I've listened to music all my life. I still do. I listen to music every day. I always gotta, I'll stop. I work out in the field. I'll stop and turn on a song. I need something to pick me up. So to actually be able to play, it's like I wanted to play in a band. I wanted to do it, so I did it. And just that creative process of coming up with a song, it kind of coming to fruition, and then taking it out and doing it, see what happens.
Chris?
For me, I think just being part of something that so many people were into at that point, how it affected people's lives, whatever, while it was happening. There's nothing, we never thought that was going on in people's lives, but certain times in people's lives, music can play a role in that. So I'm glad that Donnie asked me that day if I could slow down playing drums, and I'm glad I accepted, and turned out to be one of the really high points of my life.
In order to truck the Grand Canyon, evil needs some of you. And the folks at Motel Toys thought they would make one too. Wind it up and watch it fly. Higher, higher, really high. Should have reached the other side. It's like we fell down from the sky.
Thanks so much for listening. And thank you, Donnie, for finally delivering those trading cards. You can follow this show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Lucy's Record Shop, or email me directly at mary@lucy'srecordshop.com with your thoughts and any feedback, any Lucy's memorabilia you may have. Links to full versions of the songs used in this episode can be found in the episode notes and at lucy'srecordshop.com. I also urge you to go to YouTube and type in Fun Girls from Mount Pilot just to see the videos and get a sense of what their shows were like. I mean, there's no way to really capture exactly the essence of their live shows, but you can get a pretty good idea. Many thanks to Michael Eads for his time and the use of his studio. This show is brought to you by Give 40 the Finger Productions and We Own This Town, a podcast network of original entertainment and documentary content. You can find more info at the official site at weownthistown.net or follow at We Own This Town on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.